Hi everybody, thanks for dropping in on Thursday's TNT. And for those people that watched yesterday, thank you very much. Because it was one of the lowest performing TNTs I've done, even as I approach the 100th program, still learning how to engage and get the what are they called? The thumbnails right. There's a lot to learn when you do YouTube, and I'm sort of, well, not really new to it, but it's not intuitive to me like it is, I think, with a lot of younger people that sort of grow up with the internet. So a learning process and how to come up with the right stories. That's always difficult, but I do try and choose a wide and varied range of stories that might be of interest to all of you, not just doing one topic, but maybe 7 or 8 topics per program, all the hot news, and trying to analyse the story behind it. Anyway, let's go to today's stories, and we start in Khao San Road. Businesses on Khao San Road struggle to serve customers. This story from Phuket-go.com, and it's a story that's been repeated quite a few times, and saying just about all tourism destinations, they're struggling to cope with staff shortages. Second paragraph saying that the demand is almost back to pre-pandemic levels. The bad news is that staff numbers are not. This is a story that's being repeated right throughout the tourism and hospitality industry in Thailand. The story goes on to say that Thailand's hospitality industry has been decimated by the pandemic, initially by all the hotels and tourism infrastructure being closed down, and now because the former staff don't want their old jobs back. So the question is, and we've asked this before, where have they all gone? Now, a lot of people say, oh, well, they sort of went back up country to their families. Well, clearly they didn't all go back up country to their families. There would have been a certain level of people that did. We know here in Phuket, for example, that a lot of the workers here are from the Isan area, and a lot of Burmese people here as well, because you can get to Myanmar with about 5-minute drive from here. So all that aside, where have all these people gone? And why is it so difficult to get them back? Well, some people are saying, well, the cost of acquiring those staff has gone up. They're holding out for more. They come along and they do the job for 3 or 4 days. They hear about another job because everybody's looking for staff at the moment. They get another couple of 100 baht a month and off they go over to that job as well. So they're really finding it difficult to attract and then hold staff. Apart from the fact that they've got to go through all the training and get them used to the systems at that various hotel or the tours or whatever that job might be. So I'd be interested to hear your comments in the comments section below as to why you think it's so difficult to attract people back to jobs they used to be happy to do, happy with the wages, happy with the conditions. And just about everybody I speak to in restaurants, hospitality, I even spoke to Sean at 5 Star Marine. Now, they're pretty lucky because they've been doing well for the past year. But they're saying they hear also around the traps that everybody is finding it difficult to get staff. So let's go on with the story. And it's not just in Bangkok. Tourism businesses on the island, this is talking about Phuket, recently confirmed they have over 17,000 vacancies to fill. So there's the bottom line. If you're looking for a job at the moment, or if you know somebody is looking for a job, then, Phuket's got 17,000 vacancies. You could pretty much walk into any hotel with a CV, and if you've got a pulse, you'll get a job. So that's good news, I suppose, for people looking for work, but it just is strange to me where they've all gone. They can't have all found new jobs. They couldn't have all started working with the family. They didn't all start their own OnlyFans accounts. It's just an interesting dynamic. To our next story now, and Cannabis Bill in limbo after House meeting lacks a quorum. This is the latest, well, I suppose you'd say, death knell in the whole Cannabis Bill. And it's going to cause problems, certainly leading up to the next election. problems for Anitin Sharvirakun, who is an aspiring Prime Minister and leader of the Thai Party, which is quite popular, but they can't even push through one bill in, 6 months. So he's got problems. Let's go through what these problems were yesterday. And the passage of Thailand's controversial Cannabis Bill expected to be further delayed after the House meeting collapsed yesterday due to a lack of a quorum. In other words, they didn't have enough MPs to vote, but it seemed it was quite political. After the House approved the deletion of the contentious Section 3 from the bill, we'll go through that in just a moment, MPs from both government and opposition parties started to leave the chamber. Section 3 stipulates that cannabis is not a narcotic drug. Okay, so this was part of the Cannabis Bill. And in Section 3 it said that cannabis is not a narcotic drug, which is central to the decriminalisation that happened back on June the 9th. So it was going to give a parliamentary tick to that decriminalisation. Now, with that Section 3 taken out, the Cannabis Bill basically has got, it's all smoke and mirrors, really, and it's got no grounding, it's got no foundation without that Section 3. But they voted to remove the Section 3, so the parliamentarians started walking. So this is a Thai PBS coverage of the same story, gives a bit more detail. The Parliament votes to remove contentious Section 3 of the Cannabis Bill, and the House of Representatives, this is the lower house in the Thai Parliament, voted 119 to 0 with 31 abstentions yesterday to delete the Section 3 of the Cannabis Bill in its entirety. 119 to zilch. In essence, Section 3 of the Cannabis Bill stipulated that cannabis is not a narcotic drug. So that was removed from the revised bill. Didn't even get to a vote. So the deletion of Section 3 will pave the way, apparently, for the passage of the bill to decriminalise cannabis and hemp. And then the battle is, however, not over yet, as opponents of the decriminalisation of cannabis have turned to the administrative court, asking it to invalidate the Public Health Ministry's edict removing cannabis from Category 5 drug list. So pretty much that Cannabis Bill now is dead in the water. The Parliament's got other things to do. We've got a Prime Minister under fire from all sorts of directions. I think the last thing on their mind is going to be this bill, and it's quite clear that there's a lot of MPs, probably a majority of MPs, that want to see the situation return to a pre-June the 9th situation when cannabis was an illicit drug. I do feel sorry for those people who, in good faith, have invested in these stores, people who have invested in the cultivation. I have no idea how they're going to put the proverbial genie back in the bottle. But if there's no laws, if there's no act that controls this particular herb, then I'm not sure how the current situation can continue. What's happening out there on the streets, what's happening in Parliament, what's happening in the minds of some of these parliamentarians are three totally different things. So I have no idea how it's going to resolve, but at the moment, that Cannabis Bill is dead in the water. 3 sleeps to go till Christmas 2022, and I know for a lot of you it's been a very difficult year. So this Sunday I'm going to be doing a special TNT. Maybe just me and you. Maybe I might have a few people in. The cats might make an appearance. It's going to be a sort of a Christmas show because I'm aware that a lot of you may be spending it alone, and I want to make sure that at least you've got me and maybe 300 or 400 other people who'll join us during that program to spread some Christmas cheer, share some stories, and perhaps remember Christmases of old when we were younger, when we used to have some fine times. And I can remember a few Christmas parties that were quite forgettable as well, as relatives got a little bit out of control. I'm sure you know what I mean. Anyway, thanks to our sponsor, 5 Star Marine. They've been a great supporter ever since we got started with the new TNT program. We started in September, I think. Getting close to our 100th show. I'll have to do a bit of a count up. We must be getting very close now. Thank you, 5-Star Marine. And if you do want a private boat tour in Phuket, 5starmarinephuket.com. There's a link in the description. The Nation, nationthailand.com, reporting that the number of flights will soar by 65% next year. According to Aero Thai, the number of flights will rise by 65% next year compared to this year, according to Aeronautical Radio of Thailand. Well, you'd certainly hope so, because at the start of this year there were almost no flights. Now coming to the end part of the year, of course, it's really speeding up. But yeah, we'd like to think there's going to be a lot more flights across 2023 than this year. In October, the average daily number of flights to and from Thailand reached 1,637. The number of domestic flights reached 1,806 per day. In December, international and domestic combined has averaged about 1,800 per day and is likely to increase as the new year approaches. These numbers don't seem to sort of add up, as often happens. So if you've got 1,800 flights a day and you've got 365 days a year, to get to the number of tourists we had in 2019, which was some 39.5 million people, that was foreign arrivals into Thailand. That means you'd have to have how many people in each plane? So I've done the maths. And it's 60, only 60 people. So, okay, we're assuming that half these flights might be cargo. Half? Probably couldn't possibly be that. But that means you'd have to have an average of 120 people on a plane. I'm thinking that most of these international flights, a good half of them, are going to be wide-bodied, two-aisled planes. Probably more. So 120 people in, the figures don't seem to add up. Anyway, Aero Thai reporting that, and I reported as is from The Nation, but I'm never going to let a number go past without giving it a quick check. Let's check on the latest from this Royal Thai Navy story. And the Royal Thai Navy takes flak over lost ship. This is the latest reporting from the BangkokPost.com. The Royal Thai Navy has come under fire over the sinking of its warship as a House Committee on Military Affairs prepares to grill the Prime Minister, who's not only the Prime Minister, he's also the Defence Minister, Prayut Chan-o-cha, over the matter next week. The third paragraph down there and says that Mr. Prasert, who's the Secretary-General of the Thai Party and an advisor to the committee, said he wondered how well the Sukhothai had been maintained before it sank, adding that the Navy had received regular budget allocations for the upkeep of the warship. He criticised the Navy over a lack of safety standards and said that there were not enough life jackets to go around the vessel when it capsized. And we went through this story in detail yesterday in that program that you didn't watch. So the life jackets seemed to be just one of a community of errors that were made. So the third paragraph down there, he said, if the conditions were terrible, why was going out to sea insisted upon? A ship at this level must have had a system to pump out any water, but when it listed, that means as it sort of tipped over, it capsized and sank easily. He said he wanted the committee to look into whether the Navy had spent its budget on maintenance efficiently, whether the Navy had bought enough life-saving gear for the crew members. So they're going to raise the matter in Parliament today, the third paragraph down, and demand that General Prayut take responsibility. Interesting, the opposition members keep on calling him General Prayut, where these days he styles himself just as the Prime Minister of Thailand and doesn't use the term general anymore. And then this member of the opposition said someone must be held responsible. Now some comments from the Admiral of the Royal Thai Navy, second paragraph. Since there were not enough life jackets for the extra 30 people on board, we tried to use other equipment to save those who had no life jackets. And that alludes to some comments the Admiral made the day before when talking about the alternative floating devices. He was alluding to polystyrene boxes that they were keeping the life preservers in, and saying that they could be used as flotation devices. And of the 30 who had no life jackets, 18 were pulled from the sea, while the rest remained in the sea. And General Prayut yesterday expressed his deep regret over the casualties, extended his condolences to the families of the dead crew members. I think that's basically saying that they don't expect to find any more alive. According to the Navy, of the 105 crew members on board the Corvette when it went down, 82 have been found as of yesterday, 6 were found dead, 23 were still missing. As the Prime Minister alluded to, they're probably missing presumed dead. So commiserations to the family and friends of those people who are still missing. And this is not going to play out well for the Prime Minister in the lead up to the next election. There is a looming Black Swan event, which I really can't talk about. I could use a whole lot of code, but I really don't want to be insensitive. But I think you all know what I'm talking about. That's probably going to come to light early next year and is also going to add some more problems for the Prime Minister and the current regime running Thailand. So a very interesting situation as we head into the end of this year and look to the start of 2023. You're watching the TNT program on Thursday, and this story sort of bothers me. Let's get into it. After deaths at Wonderfruit, attendees complained festival ill-equipped and negligent. This story reported by Coconuts Bangkok. And the story says that there was one volunteer doctor on hand at last weekend's Wonderfruit Festival when 25,000 people poured into party day and night at the Siam Country Club, where at least 2 people died and others experienced medical emergencies. What are these medical emergencies, we ask? So one person travelled from Singapore to attend the festival for her second time with a large group of friends. 2 of them became seriously ill and unresponsive on Sunday morning. They described being forced to search for medical help after ill-equipped festival medics refused aid. And it's down the bottom there. As a group of friends who needed medical help so desperately, we were literally left out in the cold to our own devices for 1.5 hours. What on earth was wrong with them, you'd wonder? Riley C. said that after developing breathing problems, it took 10 minutes to find a staffer who pointed the way to a medic tent, but said none of the medic golf carts were available to take him there. At the tent, Riley said personnel did not do a proper assessment of my condition, what might have happened, what I'd ingested. What I'd ingested, I see, and simply gave an antihistamine to keep the swelling down. Drug interactions can be fatal, and they didn't consider this as a possibility. The second paragraph there, and emergencies there were over the weekend. Medical personnel were frequently spotted walking through the fields to evaluate or render aid to attendees who had lost consciousness or required help. Then the article goes on to say it's no secret that many people go to large music festivals to take powerful party drugs such as MDMA, LSD, ketamine, cocaine, I can't even pronounce that one, benzodiazepines such as GB2, despite the fact that most advertise a no-drug policy. Cannabis, which is not associated with health emergencies, was not an issue as it was fully decriminalised in June. So this is a long article, and if you want to read it, I'll put a link in the description because I think there's quite a lot to be said about this. Just finishing by saying, rumours continue to circulate that upward of 4 people died at the festival, but Coconuts has not found any evidence to support that. So the article really is calling to question the organisers having only allegedly one medic on hand to help people who were using psychoactive drugs, illicit drugs. They could have been arrested. They could be put in jail for a very long time if they're caught with these drugs. Of course, it is common knowledge that people go to these big parties and actively take these drugs. Whether we should be, or even the organisers should be responsible for those people if they have a reaction to those drugs, I think is probably questionable. Even if we should be asked to have sympathy for these people, having knowingly put these drugs into their own body, their own choice. These are not people who are using them for medicinal purposes. They're going out there to have fun. Now, that's fine. If you want to go out and have fun, if you want to take these drugs, it's your body and you're well entitled to do so. But you shouldn't then be complaining that the organisers don't have enough medics to look after you. It's your decision if you want to put these drugs into your blood system. You're not sure exactly what you are ingesting, by the way. These are not drugs that are licensed or registered. You don't know what's in them. So if you're going to have a bad reaction, that is your problem, and you need to take responsibility for that and not start blaming the organisers for only having one medic. Then again, I would say just generally due to things like dehydration, which by the way is a bit of a byproduct or side effect of a lot of these drugs, is a common issue, particularly in a country like Thailand, where it does get very humid and you can get completely wrung out very quickly. Then I think they probably need to have more medics just to look after people being dehydrated. But to then say that the organisers should be looking after people because they're taking illicit drugs, I just don't think that's going to wash very well with either the organisers or the judge if it goes that far. And just finally, Thai authorities to crack down on cannabis parties and drunk driving during New Year's Eve. Today's a real downer, isn't it, everybody? Mr. Party Pooper, cannabis cannot be used as part of New Year celebrations, warned the Department of Thai Traditional and Alternative Medicine. The spokesman says down the bottom there, the second paragraph, he reminded the public that cannabis should only be used for medical use with the aid of a doctor and not for parties or events. And he said vendors must be granted a permit to sell cannabis. If they fail to do so or throw cannabis parties, legal consequences will surely follow. And during the New Year period, there's expected to be an intense control over drinking. After the Public Health Ministry and law enforcement launched a cannabis don't drink and drive, don't drive and drink, the ministry said more than half of the drivers who were involved in accidents during New Year had been drinking. So I suppose at least you have been warned. That story there from the patianews.com. And with that, I thank you very much for watching today's program. We look forward to having you back tomorrow, and we'll see you then.